We've heard a lot of good things up here today. We're going to open it up and kind of just buzz around the panel. I'm going to ask everybody on the panel to just jump in and we'll do some questions. But I think given the size of the crowd out there and the fact that we have so many curious people, right, be curious. If somebody has a great question, raise your hand, we'll call on you. We want you to leave with some advice and some stuff you can take and put to work right now if you want to. So a lot of common themes up here. And I'll tell you one thing that you do see coming out of every one of these chairs is a passion for what they do. But let's talk a little bit about how you use the passion and so what's the fine line between becoming so passionate about what you do and then becoming a workaholic at the same time. And is it okay, Jamie, are you a workaholic? And we'll get around to all of you on that as well. But and it's a good thing, I guess I am. But how do you balance that with staying with a life that helps you become as creative as you can possibly be too?
Yeah, that's an interesting. It's an interesting dilemma because you hear that a lot. You know, the work-life balance or don't be a workaholic. There's definitely a way to balance your life, but also. I feel, I was joking with Steve about being the guy on the airplane. This is why I have my big Beats headphones so that guys don't talk to me on airplanes. The reason, and I'm kidding, but the reason is the fact that you've heard baseball players say, I can't believe they pay me to play baseball. Like, I can't believe I get a paycheck for this, even though it's, multi-million-dollar paycheck sometimes. But they've always said that, and it's one of those things that's really hard to understand until you're doing something that you love to do. And for me personally, the fact that I'm involved with other folks that are in education reform and bringing technology into education and seeing, the impact that we can make, it's my passion. It's what drives me, and it's not work for me. It's literally I honestly, and this is I don't think I've ever admitted this publicly, but like Friday afternoons, I start getting sad because like the work week's over, because I'm so passionate about diving in, and Steve's right in terms of doing the research and knowing the market, knowing what works and what doesn't work, and being able to leverage that. The passion that you have for your work will make it not feel like work. Now, that being said, there's also a way to balance that with other parts of your life. So for me personally, I don't talk on my phone in the car, for example. I love my car. I love driving it fast, and I don't talk in my car. I don't bring my, we have a rule in my house, you don't have cell phones at the dinner table, so my kids aren't allowed to check their phones. And, you can create kind of boundaries between, being in the moment in work and also being in the moment when you're living your personal life as well. So there's definitely that kind of balance between those two things.
Adam, are you a workaholic?
Yeah, I'm definitely learning. I'm learning about the moderation. I'd say it's more of being aware of what the limit is on working too much. Getting to that point it's hard to recognize it, which is with my youth. I'm learning myself. But no, it's tough. It's tough to step away, depending on what you're doing. But it's good to step away in the end, or else there will be nothing to step to.
That's true. A balanced life is not just to have a balanced life. It's one of the ways you stay creative and you bring fresh thinking to your business. And we've already heard from just about everybody up here how critical it is to be on the creative edge these days and really staying ahead of your competition. So whether it's workaholic or being creative, Jeff, you don't have to tell me if you're a workaholic or not, because I'll just kind of assume you are. Maybe I'm wrong. But how do you stay creative? How do you find the time to stay creative when you're also running a business and trying to beat the competitors? Where's the creative piece come in?
We at Tall Wave and then the companies we run, we put a system in for creativity. And I think part of it is just our approach of first getting rid of any toxicity that can show up in companies. We have a lot of rules. No assholes is one of them. No politics. If you're gonna bitch uphill. So once we set
these are things I can't write in the newspaper, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll go newspaper on you. But we set what's that vision? Where do we want to be 5 years out? And when you get the team on board with that, and you get the right people on the bus, and you get them in the right seats, and although I thought that was a cliche 10 years ago, it really matters. You can get some really bad seeds in your company, and it really stifles everything. But what we do is we'll set that vision, then we'll roll back, okay, what do we have to do in the next 90 days? And then everybody's running at it. They're all incented to do it. And then on a quarterly basis, I give the company a little bit more than a half day off, and we do refresh, renew, and unite. And that's unplugging from the phone. It's unplugging from your family, from your friends, and just getting in a place where you can be in your car and drive fast, whatever you need to do, and really get in touch with yourself. And then on the renew part, kind of writing in that journal and starting to get creative and making sure that you're saying, okay, next quarter, what are the things I want to accomplish, not just in work, but in your life? Because back to the workaholic question, we're all potentially workaholics if you're entrepreneurs. That's not a bad thing if you're listing out kind of in journaling and in the renew side what you want to do next quarter to make a difference in your life, the people around you. And then I've got 3 kids, so what am I going to do to make sure that I'm unplugged?
Steve, we're talking about attitude a little bit here, and I have a feeling that you probably don't have a lot of tolerance for negative attitudes. So what have you done in your career to wean them out, or how do you deal with them?
Well, you know, it's interesting what Jeff just said. You surround yourself with A players, and that's what Steve Jobs did. He wouldn't tolerate mediocrity, and he wouldn't tolerate, well, that's impossible. And that's basically what you have to do, Don. You have to set the example. That's what leadership is all about. And take responsibility. If there's a failure, it starts at the top. I don't know about what a workaholic is. I really don't. I agree with Jamie. You have to have a passion and a love for what you do. That does not make it being a workaholic. I've got some of my colleagues and friends, I might add, in the audience here, Doug Gaylor, Jeannie Leckie, and Dean Wright. What time do you guys receive emails from me? 1:30 in the morning. Oh, I must be putting you on the top of the list, Doug, because how about you, Jeannie?
Can I ask a question on that? What time do you answer them? There you go.
But the point is, and getting back to what Jamie said, and getting back to what Jeff said, and Adam too, you surround yourself with people that have the same work ethic that you do, that look at any task as being possible. It's just a problem looking for a solution. And why not be the one that solves the problem? And don't complicate things. Too many times in business, we write these elaborate business plans, and we try and predict what's going to happen 5 or 10 years out. When you're in the marketplace, you see what's happening as you do it. And if you need to make a course correction, you can. And if a business plan is so elaborate, remember the plan I gave you about selling newspapers. It was pretty simple. Start early enough, see as many prospects as possible, and work hard all day long. That was the plan, and it worked. If you make it too elaborate, it can't be executed. It can't be executed. Know your market. Whether you're in nanotechnology or in search engine technology or, you know, all the different things you do, Jeff, with incubators and what have you, or what Adam does down there, understand your market, understand your customers. That is the market, your customers and potential customers. And find out how to continually drive your costs down. It's fun. It's like a chess game, Don, and I love playing the game.
You know, Matt, before we started up here, we were talking about customer service as it relates to restaurants. And let's talk about customer service a little bit. Depending on who your customers are doesn't matter. Sometimes they're internal, your own employees. How do you deal with customer service in your line of work, where I might have a hard time identifying who your customers are, but who are they and how do you take care of customer service?
Well, most of the people I work with are technologists, so they're from large corporations, research organizations, and we work with Raytheon, the Air Force, things like that. But when you talk about that, I think it's an attitude, and the attitude is whether it's a customer or whether it's your employee or just your colleague, you have to give them the same level of respect that you need to confer. And what you want there is you're in it in the long haul, okay? So you build these relationships, and you could be with these people for years. So the first thing is you really treat them well, but also you have to realize that sometimes you're not going to get along, and those so it's a building relationship where you learn about each other and you try to make it grow. And when you make it grow, it's going to work out. Sometimes it doesn't work out. But I think in the beginning, you show that you have to have a level of respect, that you're going to listen to them, try to work things out. And then you got to treat them like they're, like kin. No matter what. You're not on this earth for a long time, so whoever you're with, you should really make the most of it. And so if you have that attitude, it really works out, because then it's not they're your customer or your employee, or they're, basically more of like a comrade or a company.
I'll jump in, you bet, Jamie, go
just
for it,
gonna add
man.
on our whole
Yeah.
customer thing, because I have an
Yeah.
interesting perspective on this, is like Adam didn't ask his customers if they needed a new controller. He solved a problem. And one of the things that we focus with customers, one of the things that we say at Google is, if Henry Ford asked his customers what they needed, they would ask for a faster horse, right? The car wasn't an idea yet, right? So the concept of solving your customers' problems is where you're going to start building that relationship with your customers. Solving their problems is critical. It's not asking them for, you absolutely, once you solve their problem, ask them for feedback and gather feedback and observe how they're using your stuff. But, don't rely on what I call the passive aggressive suggestion box, right? Where people, that's not where your ideas are going to come from. Your ideas are going to come from solving your customers' problems and seeing that they have problems. For us, for example, with what we're doing currently, there's lots of technology in education, lots of technology in education. We spend $60 billion as a nation in bringing technology in education, and not a lot to show for it. And so instead of saying, do you need more technology, what we did is we said, well, what's the problem? And so we solved the problem with the Chromebook that we're releasing, where you can actually manage and scale technology in school systems. So solving our customers' problems is what's critical for us, and I think that it's a little bit of a difference. Absolutely, you need to have a respect. You need to have, you need to understand who your customers are, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. You can identify data for your customers. We are a data-driven organization, and being able to identify that data, being able to see what problems your customers have and solve those problems is where we come from.
Anybody in the audience? I haven't seen any hands go up yet, but I wanted to at least give one chance for the best question of the night from the audience. Is somebody going to ask it? You want to leave me? I'm going to do all the work up here. Is that what you're saying?
You might want to look for the red dot under your seat also.
You never know. No, I'm happy. I could ask these guys questions till tomorrow morning if we need to. That's fine. We got one over there. Go. Sure.
Well, I have one for you real quick. You talked about you started with $500 and reinvested. What do you mean by that? What did you reinvest?
Well, I took the 500, and with that I bought 20 controllers. From there, anything I sold the controller for was reinvested into the business. So essentially, it was $500 just to buy the product and produce the product. And then from there, just reinvesting.
And I had one more too.
Sure.
For everybody, maybe. Today's about networking and meeting the right people. And I didn't hear anything, but you had passion and you went for it and you saw the opportunity and you knocked down the door. But who was the most influential person that you met and really made you knock down that door even further?
That question's so good, I was thinking about asking it next. So let's talk about that. Networking and relationships, and who's the most influential person you met along the way? That's an excellent question. Let's give everybody a chance up here to take a whack at that. Matt, why don't we start that with you down on the other side?
I think that's a great question, and what it really shows is you've got some insight, because I think a company is only good as your customers, your employees. So it's, when I look at my company and our successes, it's not what we did, it's actually who we linked with and how we built strong relationships. So when I was talking about the answer before, I kind of didn't say that, but that's really what makes it, you have a resource. So the company that you build is not just the company of you. Let's say you have a small startup, whatever. It's actually all your attachments and all the linkages that you form, and those can form anywhere. So you have to be a little bit creative where you find these things. Sometimes you'll be on an airplane, right? And you'll meet the right person, or you'll be at the racetrack, or that that's random, but you've got to take advantage of that. Well, I don't
Pay
know. I don't go
attention.
to
You
the
learn
racetrack.
things, people. Pay attention.
But but no, that's true because I know that our success is really hinged on we met certain people. And then you asked who was the most important person. There's this one person I remember in Chicago when I left, and I was going to do Quantura all by myself. And he met, and he said a couple interesting things. I called him, and I was referred to him that we should meet. And I called him up and I said, hey, we should meet. You've got this small company, I got this small company, let's just meet. The interesting thing he told me was he always listens to whoever calls him on the phone. And the first thing is he tries to assess, are they trying to sell him something? They are then. But he said for some reason he felt like I wasn't trying to sell him something, and I didn't even know this. But that's what he's looking for. And he gives me advice all the time on what to do in business. And he has saved my company numerous times for making huge mistakes. And that type of mentor, I don't know how you find them, but you've got to find someone that has a true voice. And that's really important because they will tell you the truth. And the truth is worth more than any consultant you can get or any business plan, because the truth sometimes is just one or two words. And that will tell you what to do with the business. It'll also teach you, there's things he'll teach you about business conduct and things. I look at how he deals with people and what he does, and I learn from that, but really there have been words that he has told me in my business. And I still use him as a mentor. So whenever I have a major problem, I call him, and we work on it, and we have a yearly conversation, and at the end, he always says this thing, are we finished? Is there anything else? And, but yeah, that's absolutely true. But I think also recognizing that everyone that you link with is valuable. So that's why when you link with them, you really want to make sure that they're the people that will, you have a good team, right? So they're your team. They're your everyone. And that really will help you to be very successful, I think.
Jamie, let's keep going this
Yeah.
theme. And name, not names, but name who, if you had to pick one person in your career who was really the most inspirational to you, talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah, a couple of things about that. The first thing is we have all the tools that are available to us to create our networks today, right? How many of you are on LinkedIn, for example? Okay, cool. So you're on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's a great opportunity to be able to utilize those tools out there, build your profile, connect with people. Just know, how it is that you're going to connect with them. So, for example, just this literally happened today. I get an email from somebody on my LinkedIn that said, hey, I just wanted to connect with you. I'm going to be moving to Arizona, and I was wondering if you, knew of any jobs that would be good for me. What do you think I did with that email? Delete, right? You can't do it that way. You have to be specific. How is it that you want me to help you, right? So being able to really, really dive into what it is that you want to do. And I think what Matt's talking about, what I also have is what I call my personal board of directors. My influential people, the people that I go to when something's come up, like somebody will approach me for a new job, and I don't know, this sounds good. What do I want to do? So I go to my personal board of directors, and I ask them. And by the way, my wife is the chair of this board of directors. But I go to my board of directors, and I'm like, what do you think about this opportunity? Does it make sense for me? You have enough people in your life that know you really, really well. From an influential perspective, I think for me personally, or some of the people that I worked with, but more than anything, it was a professor named Steve Ullman in college, who told me that I was smart, told me that I had opportunity, told me that I had what I needed to have, and I think that you should pay attention to how you can see yourself the best through others, and being able to see yourself the way other people see you, I think, is a critical skill to build.
Adam, let's go over to you. Same question. And also, who inspired you?
It's one of my best friend's stepfathers was there in the beginning to help guide me. It was interesting speaking with somebody that had never played a video game in their lives and trying to take advice from them. But overall, he really helped me understand the fundamentals of business. No matter what you're doing in business, if it's video games or something complete opposite, there's always those fundamentals. And he was always there to help me understand those fundamentals and reassure that I'm using them properly.
That's cool. Jeff?
Yeah, so on the networking side, networking can be, I think, a dangerous use of time depending on how you use it. Networking by the fact of just going to networking events can be dangerous because a lot of the people there are looking for something from somebody. But I spent my time seeing where I could be part of associations that are moving a movement forward. So as an example, simple, the association that I'm with was a bunch of search engine marketers, which is the industry I was in, but it was the people who wanted to give back, and by the mere fact they were giving back, you were networking with people that were going to help bring you along, that you could help give advice to, and you'd surround yourself with people who not only were driven on the profit side, but driven to do something for the industry. So I think that was important. And then I like the personal board of directors. I do something very similar, but my dad's probably been my best mentor. I've been able to go back to him, and someone that continues to always inspire me and I look up to.
Steve?
I like your answer, Jeff. I like all the answers. It was probably my mother. But there's something I do that allows me to have lots of mentors and lots of role models. I read biographies of people that have accomplished something meaningful in their lives. And that way you can have literally hundreds or thousands of mentors. Another mentor would be Winston Churchill, Mother Teresa. All of these people have one common thing that runs through their veins, their DNA, and that is they never, ever, ever give up. You know, if they find a closed door, they look for an open window. If the window's, you know, shut, they throw a rock through it. It doesn't make any difference. They'll get through it. If the goal is on the other side of a mountain and they can't go through the mountain, over the mountain, or around the mountain, they'll go completely around the earth till they get on the other side. You never, ever give up. And it's so important to have a mentor. Seek people out. Not only do I meet people on planes, I've met some of the most interesting people on planes, trains, buses, subways, you name it. It's just amazing, some of the people I've met. Another guy, you've probably never heard of this gentleman. His name was Sen Nishiyama. Anybody in this room ever heard of Sen Nishiyama?
We could Google it.
Now Google it, right?
You should Google it. Sen Nishiyama was an immigrant. Well, he was born in the United States, but his parents were immigrants. He was born in Ogden, Utah. In 1936, I think, or 37, his father died. His parents were from Japan. He decided to take the ashes back to Japan, got caught up in the war. He was detained in Japan, became an interpreter for the emperor. And he was an aide to every single prime minister from the end of World War II until Nakasone in the early 80s, the late 70s. I met him on a plane, a walking, talking history book. He was one of my mentors. Every time I went to Japan, and I went every other week, I'd have lunch with him. He was on the Missouri when they signed the peace treaty, sitting right next to the emperor, interpreting for him. It's just amazing the people you can meet. You mentioned Steve Jobs when he was a youngster and he wanted to get spare parts to build his first computer. Actually, his first computer was a device that was illegal. He built what we called the blue box in those days. It was used to imitate the tones that were made when you made a long distance call, so he could get around paying for it. But he called Bill Hewlett, the founder of Hewlett and Packard. Just called him up. You know, you'd be surprised how many people you can meet that way. Just amazing. One of the people running for president is a personal friend of mine. How did I meet him? Networking. Another friend introduced me to him 10 years ago. But that's how you meet people. Be engaged. You know, don't expect the other guy to do it for you. Be engaged politically. Be engaged humanitarian. you know, be charitable, do all of these things. You'd be surprised how much you can get into a workday or a day. And I don't know about, I know about you, you said you work 5 days a week. I work 7 days a week because I love it. I get my kids involved, my grandkids. Being an example is one of the best ways to do it. Just do the right thing. And we all know what the right thing is or the wrong thing. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. But anyway, that's my advice. Network, call people you admire, read a lot of biographies, listen to your parents. I like your answer, and my mother was one of the brightest self-educated people I've ever met. She didn't have much of a formal education, but I bet you in her lifetime she read 15 or 20,000 books. That's pretty hard to do. Figure it out, do the math. She lived 80 years. She probably started reading books when she was 5 years old. Just divide 15,000 by 80 years, you'll see how many books you have to read. Almost one a day. But don't take no for an answer. Learn from these people. I love the chairman of your committee there, your wife. You know, the people that care about you the most are going to give you the best advice.
Since it is, just to add, since it is Geeks Night Out, I'll have to admit this publicly. I have a desk, and by the way, I have a dining room table for a desk because I think desks are too small, and I like lots of stuff on my desk, and I have a big giant monitor. But right underneath my monitor is a little statuette of Yoda. And I look at Yoda every day, and because Yoda to me gave me the best advice ever, which is there is no try, there's do or do not, right? And that's it. Either you're doing it or you're not doing it. There is no try, and that just stuck with me ever since I was 12 years old. And so Yoda sits on my desk right there and gave me the best advice ever.
You know, our time is up here, but I don't know about you guys, but I learned a lot today. How about a round of applause for our panel?
Stay with us.